From HYPEBEAST Radio, I'm Jeff Staple, and this is The Business of Hype, a show about creative entrepreneurs, brand builders, innovators, and the realities behind the dreams they've built. Each episode of The Business of Hype is a bit of a time capsule and a lesson bundled neatly into approximately 1 hour of conversation. Now, I say it's a time capsule because over the course of 5 seasons, these episodes often become a marker on a timeline as our guests continue onward into their stellar trajectories. And it's safe to say that this episode will serve as one brief moment on a compelling timeline for the boundless talent that is Tremaine Emory. Now, you may not instantaneously know the name, but you certainly know the influence and the vision of Denim Tears. Part of me cringes to try and validate him through his peer affiliations, even though there are so many amazing ones. So just understand this. You are about to share an hour of your time with a compassionate, wise, curious, and inspiring individual who has not given in to circumstances that could and should stifle others, but instead he embraced his individuality and shared it with the world. So sit up in your chair, perk up on the train, and stop what you're doing and pretend Nas just dropped Ether. You'll understand that more later. And now give your undivided attention to Mr. Tremaine Emory, also known as Denim Tears. So, this has been a long time coming, a lot of coordination, but we finally made it happen. We are in Los Angeles now, your new home. Tell us who we have in the studio.
My name's Tremaine Emory.
And what do you do, Tremaine?
Currently,
I wish you saw the gesture on his face. He's just like, shrug.
I do storytelling for myself. I do storytelling with Acyde, and I do storytelling with artists and brands sometimes. Okay. Yeah.
So storyteller.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question that I think a lot of people ask.
Well,
is it Denim Tears or Denim Tears?
Both, with tears. If you're gonna say it, Denim Tears.
Okay.
But it's both.
Denim Tears is mad poetic too, though.
Yeah.
Especially
it's
with
denim,
your jeans.
You know, it's Denim Tears. It's Denim Tears.
Tears.
Yeah.
Like crying denim.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean crying. But yeah.
Can you explain? Why don't you tell us?
And that's why it's Denim Tears and Denim Tears, because the handle is a metaphor for keeps evolving, but it's a metaphor for attrition of life. Mm-hmm. So, pair of jeans, you get them new. The most expensive and the jeans people value, it's not about, forget money. Jeans people value most are the ones that either they bought that were worn in or that they've worn for a long time.
Yep.
And the beauty's in what the jeans have been through.
Mm-hmm.
And that's life, you know what I mean? Like, people die, good things happen, bad things happen, you get a job, lose a job, you lose hair, whatever, you gain weight, lose weight, fall in love, fall out of love. But all this thing is attrition, and that's what makes you who you are. Mm-hmm. And people become great human beings by dealing with the good and the bad.
Word.
Because you can't. Life's gonna give you what you want. It's gonna give you what you don't want. Mm-hmm. How you process it is what makes you who you are.
Yeah.
So it's centered around that, and then it's also involved into some storytelling about cotton and the African American experience
and its connection
of the slave trade, up to also from first slaves arrived in America August 20th, 1619. Anyone listening, you can just Google 1619 August 20th. New York Times has been putting out some amazing articles and stuff about that. And up to 2019, it's like now it's like descendant of slaves selling clothing, working, selling clothing, or just living in this country and never receiving reparations and stuff like that. So just telling some stories around that. So it's involved into that too.
Yeah.
But that's not the main thing. There is no main thing. It's just
right
to handle. You know what I mean?
So when you created your Instagram, were you Denim Tears on Twitter?
Yeah, I'm Denim Tears on Twitter.
So that came first, I assume.
Simultaneous change.
Okay.
The origin of Denim Tears is like it was a inside joke. It was a joke at a dinner between it was me, Caius Parson, Virgil Abloh, Sam Ross, and Acyde. And this is years ago. This is like 2014, maybe 13, 14, and we're DJing a party at the Edition Hotel, and we had a dinner beforehand. And I used to do like these esoteric selfies on Instagram. So like it'd be of a thing or something that would express a feeling I had. And I'd say, and then I just put selfie. Whatever.
Okay, got it.
Just stupid trolling. And then they were making fun of me about it. They were just like, they were trolling me about it. And then there's one I put up of like this old pair of Levi's I had, and the back of the back pocket was all ripped and stuff. And long story short, Acyde said like denim, like he said the denim heart, the ripped up heart, because it looked like a heart. And then selfie, and they were laughing, trolling me about that. And then Caius might have said, yeah, denim. He might have said Denim Tears, maybe Caius
Tears.
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 Like,
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
or something like that. Or maybe he said your denim was crying or something like that. And then the next day, V used to have a blog on style.com. So he was like, oh, Caius Parson of XL Young Turks fame. Acyde used to run Nike Energy Marketing. Now is currently in We Are Shining, the band. Blah, blah, blah. Sam Ross, this, that, and third. And then he goes, Denim Tears of Marc Jacobs fame. So like he like trolled me, like called me the name.
Right. And
So
branded you at the same time.
Yeah, like so it's stuck since then.
Right. I am what time, circumstance, and history have made me, certainly. But I am also much more than that. And so are we all. This is one of my favorite quotes from James Baldwin. And it seemed important to kick off the episode with a question about the name that most people have come to know Tremaine by, Denim Tears. It not only sparks a curiosity, but it also speaks to a surprising series of layers. It holds a backstory that touches on playfulness, friendship, a long journey, and of all things, attrition. Now, without giving anything away, after the episode, look up the multiple definitions of the word attrition and tie them back to this whole entire conversation. There is a phenomenal harmony between it all, and that harmony emanates from Tremaine as a person and through his work. So now let's quickly go back in time and find out all about his humble beginnings.
I was born in Atlanta, Georgia, in College Park. And when I was 3 months old, we moved to New York. And first we lived in Flushing, Queens.
Okay.
And then when I was like 10 years old, we moved to Jamaica, Queens. Because that's where they could afford a house. And Farmers Boulevard area is called St. Albans. And grew up there.
So you don't really identify with like being from Atlanta. You are a New Yorker, would you say?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, 100%. I used to spend summers in Georgia sometimes. But even when I spent the summers in Georgia, I would be in a small town called Harlem, Georgia. Like 3,000.
Harlem, Georgia.
Yeah, 3,000. One red light town, 3,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah, like my grandmothers were in the same graduating class.
Uh-huh.
And my parents went to that same high school.
Okay.
Really small town.
And what was upbringing like in Queens for you?
Yeah, it was an adventure.
Yeah?
It was an adventure.
What years? What decade are we talking about here?
90s,
Okay.
90s, 80s and 90s. I'm 38 now.
Okay.
I was born in 81. So it was an adventure. It was like, wow, because like Flushing was like, I was a minority. So it was mostly like white, Hispanic, Asian. And yeah, that was fun. And then, but like there I was like the minority, and like, I remember there was like 3 black kids in my elementary school. It was like me, Jakeem, and Monique. Like I remember the names. Haven't seen any of them probably in 20 years or more.
Right.
But it was cool. So then like I'd spend my summers in Harlem, Georgia, was with my family. And then, doing that. And then like we moved to Jamaica, Queens. And then that was like a totally different thing because everyone was black except for the police. And bus drivers was black. The only people that weren't black were police and like the bodegas. Everybody was Spanish. And then, yeah, it was great. Like it was like kind of like The Sandlot, that film, in a sense. Like my block, Keysville, Killer Keysville, as it's called. Like I can name like literally, if I name the names, like Mel Gotti, Boo, Big East, Buck, JoJo, Wuzzy, Watt, who else? Cali Watt. I'm leaving out names, but I can name so many dudes just on our block in the same age bracket. Not even talking to OGs. My block, every day, I had to walk past Ronnie Bump's house, legendary gangster from my neighborhood. Like, you've heard Nas and all these people rap about him. His block, his house was on my block. Then another dude, Shorty Black. He's in like Mike Tyson's book. He used to be Mike Tyson's bodyguard. He's also a legendary street dude from my neighborhood. His house was on my block too. So it was like, we were right near Hollis, you know what I mean? Like my barbershop, same place. Like if you watch the backstage documentary when Rockefeller and Rough Riders went on tour, my barber is in one of the barbers from my barbershop was in that documentary. DJ Clue. First time I ever seen seating was waiting to get my hair cut in Ernesto, which is his real name. DJ Clue was in there, and he had on the foam posits, the first ever foam posit. And I was like, yo, what are those? And he's like, oh, these are the new Penny Hardaways. Nike gave them to me early. And that was like 90, whatever year those came out.
And you gave them to you?
Yeah, I couldn't even wrap my head around like, you're not an athlete. You're a DJ.
Right.
I buy your mixtapes from the Coliseum Mall. Nike gave you shoes. That's interesting. That's a interesting anecdote.
Yeah.
It's the first time I ever heard of seeding.
Right.
Marketing on a sneaker. But yeah, it was an adventure, man. Like, it was like I learned a lot about the human condition growing up there. I saw some beautiful things, inspirational things. I've seen some horrible things.
I think one of the things you might be sort of known for is being able to like globally use like the world as like your tear sheet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you can absorb all the world and then process it down into a project or like an initiative.
Yeah.
Were you that way all the way back then? Like were you just a sponge of everything?
Yeah, because I never let any faction of my environment define me, in the sense that I wasn't a victim of my surroundings, positive or negative. So I wasn't like, I remember my neighborhood dudes would be like, yo, why you be hanging out downtown Manhattan? Some dudes would be like, yo, there's gay people there. White people don't want us there. You're just going to get followed around the stores. And I'd be like, one, I have no problem with gay people. So 2, there's all kinds of people downtown. 3, if someone wants to follow me in the store, they're just wasting their time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's on them. You know what I mean? So I was one of the only dudes, just like me and another dude, Ferris Bueller. We were the only dudes from our neighborhoods.
Ferris Bueller?
Yeah, Ferris. Very legendary. We went to this. I known him since high school. He was a year ahead of me. I went to Thomas Edison High School, which was right behind Jamaica High.
Uh-huh.
And we were like the only dudes from the hood that would go to the city.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
like to the village and shit.
Yeah, go to be in the village, be downtown, be in the LES. You know, I'd be buying sneakers from North, come back,
right,
crush the hood. People be pressing me like, "Yo, where'd you get those sneakers?" Going to Union, hanging out in Union every day. So I get that from my family. I just had dinner with my dad yesterday. I was asked him, I said, "Did you see the Pavarotti documentary?" He's like, "Nah." I was like, "Dad, you know why I went to go see it?" He's like, "No, why?" I said, "Because you and Mom took me to Central Park to see him and the Harlem Boys Choir do an opera." He's like, "Oh yeah, I remember that." So my parents was always taking me to all kinds of things. I remember my dad said, "I don't like the parks in this neighborhood," so he'd take us to Central Park. So I always had a cornucopia of experiences.
Yeah, and reaching out.
Yeah. My dad would always come back with stories. He was a TV news cameraman, and he worked at CBS at a very, the height of TV news.
Yeah, that's dope.
So working for CBS is in New York is the biggest market in the world for news. So he'd travel around, I remember he went to Africa with Nelson Mandela, from Mandela with the Pope. He also went to Africa and covered the aftermath of the genocide in Rwanda. He covered, Polish Jews getting their reparations in the Warsaw Ghetto. He'd cover stuff at the White House, Super Bowls, but he also covered a shooting in the projects, So always hearing those stories, always getting, the main part of that job is you're dealing with the human condition, the best of it and the worst of it every day.
Yeah.
So he's telling us all these stories. I think a big part of it too is my parents. Both my parents are kind of self-educated. Like my mom, she was a straight A student, but she didn't get to go to college because she, like many women, unfortunately during that time, they have kids and they take care of the kids when the men goes and works. So she made that sacrifice, but she's very well read. So I'd always, she'd give me books, or I'd go through the books in her bookshelf, and my dad's bookshelf. So I think that's where all that I know that's where all that comes from. Right. Really, it comes from them. Even religion. My dad grew up Baptist Christian, and him and my mom made it a point not to make us have to go to church regularly at all, or if at all, because they wanted us to figure it out for ourselves. Because my dad said he's seen so many people when he was coming up that they didn't live what they were preaching in the church. So that's my parents. My parents are kind of radical in a very demure way. Even getting out of, a small town. My mom had aspirations to get out of Harlem, Georgia. My dad didn't want to work at the pecan factory, and not saying anything's wrong with working in a pecan factory, but he knew New York is you could be yourself in New York. Yeah. And it wasn't as he just felt everyone fell in line in the South.
Every story starts somewhere, and for Tremaine, a huge part of his foundation gets attributed to the instrumental role that his community played in shaping his path. Being raised in a place like Queens, New York, and born with the gift of curiosity and the ability to sponge experiences, both joyful and tragic, is all a part of his story. Being conditioned to seek out more than what's immediately in front of you is a skill that you will carry far in life. It's hard enough to simply observe, but a step up is to process what you're seeing. Sometimes you have to be strong enough to answer deep-rooted questions about that curiosity. Tremaine referenced a radical and demure perception that he learned from his parents. What a great combination, huh? Tremaine is lucky enough to have been raised by wise, progressive parents. But if that wasn't your fortune, it's something to strive for in your life always. Be curious and open-minded. This is a key reason why people respect Tremaine's vision. Don't fall in line with everyone else. Look beyond your community while at the same time not alienating where you came from. And never stop learning. Because this world will show us plenty of lessons during our lives. We just have to be open enough to receive them. Did they have career aspirations for you?
No, my parents always was just like, they wanted me to stay out of jail and don't stay out of jail and do whatever makes you happy.
Mm-hmm.
And be as compassionate, kind person as you can be.
Mm-hmm.
That was the main thing, When I dropped out of college.
You dropped out of college?
Yeah, they didn't make me feel bad about it.
What college did you go to?
LaGuardia Community College.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why did you drop out?
I just was like, I was in school for I was kind of taking film and acting classes, and film was the main thing, and I was just like, if I want to do film, if I really care about it, I can figure it out on my own and not waste any more money.
Mm-hmm.
And and so I just started working retail. Because at that time I was working at nights. I'd go to school, and at night I'd load trucks at FedEx out in Maspeth, Queens. So
did you work for FedEx?
Yeah, loading trucks.
Okay.
So not literally it was nuts. You had to I remember they had to do counting. You had to load 400 boxes an hour.
That was your quota.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was no joke. $8.50
an hour.
$8.50 an hour. I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's how you were making a living.
Yeah, going to school and then working at work. I always had to work. I've been working my whole life. Because my parents, especially from the moment I graduated high school, they're like, you have to, we're not going to give you any money.
Mm-hmm.
You have to work. So, and even when I was in the house, I had worked at Baskin Robbins to get Jordans. And before that, my dad set up my first job. I was 12 years old, mowing lawns on my block,
Yeah.
So I've been working a long time. Even when I was a kid, I'd sell Marvel cards because my mom she was a housewife, but at one point she had a job at a pharmacy delivering medicine for the pharmacy. So I get a discount on they sold Marvel cards. So I buy the Marvel cards because I love comic books.
Yeah.
And then I would sell the Marvel cards. That was probably my first hustle. Was selling Marvel cards.
Yeah. What was, at this time, when high school, college, what was I want to understand your fashion sensibility and your music sensibility. Because I think those two things probably build up the DNA, right?
Yeah, totally. Always into style. Since, again, I'll go back to the dinner me and my dad had last night. Actually, it was dinner, me, my dad, my little brother, and my friend Brick from Bistro. And my dad told a story of when I was 6 years old, they took me to buy a cat. And my dad's like, you got to name the cat. And I named the cat Fashion. Because the cat was like a calico.
Uh-huh.
So she had all kinds of stripes and patches and stuff like that. So it reminded me of one of my mom's dresses or something out of one of her fashion magazines. So yeah, my dad said I said the name immediately. I was like, oh, call her Fashion.
That's dope.
Yeah.
That says a lot, too.
I had that cat for a long time since I had a cat for 18 years. But I just always been into style and art.
Uh-huh.
That's, always been into vintage because my mom would take me vintage shopping,
Okay. I'm trying to picture if you were ever crispy all white Air Force Ones and Evisu jeans. Did that ever?
Yeah,
did that hit you?
I had some Evisu jeans and I'd have some all whites and but even then it was when everyone was wearing Mitchell and Ness.
Yeah.
I only had one because I could only afford one, and I had the one of the first black quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl. I'm a Washington Redskins fan, so that's the one. I made it. I was I remember. I think I bought that on a credit card too.
So even your Mitchell and Ness throwback had thought behind it.
Yeah,
right? You couldn't just buy the Giants.
Yeah, but then I'm really into sports too, so I would never wear a jersey of a team me personally, I never wear a jersey of a team I don't support.
Uh-huh.
I'm old school like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And how about sneaker game back then?
Yeah, sneakers. I mean, once I started working, I started buying sneakers. Like, yeah.
Normal, obsessive, or
Kind of like, I was going to Nord. I'd go to Barney's because Barney's had a quick strike account that
Yeah.
people didn't know about. So you could come up. Like, I remember I had the HTM Croc joints, faux Croc joints, white. Those are hard to get. I got them easy because I had the guy, I remember, forget his name, at Barney's. He worked in that department. He let me know when stuff's coming in. So I got a lot of heat from Barney's,
okay.
the Nord. And then my hustle was Barney's. I had a Barney's credit card. Because back then you could get a credit card easy.
Yeah.
Which was stupid of me. So I had like a Barney's card, Bertolf Goodman, Saks. Not scamming, just a credit card.
Right.
And Barney's, Saks, Bertolf Goodman. So I used to be all, up in all there. I used to work at Bertolf Goodman,
Oh,
stock.
really?
I worked at Saks, stock. So then it's like, I had to discount too.
Okay. So your vocabulary was, I would assume, compared to other people who went to LaGuardia and worked at FedEx. I don't think they knew HTM and Nort and Stash.
Oh,
right?
nah, yeah, I was unicorn. I was
weird. Yeah.
I was unicorn in my hood for that. Like even, the thing in my hood was like all the Pradas I had, Prada Sport. Because my friend Rue Spitz, he went to London. He was on Tim Westwood. This is when we were in high school. Like last year of high school, like this is like 99, 2000. He was in this crew called Crumb Corp. And we all lived in the same block. He went, and they did Tim Westwood. They had like a show out there in London. And he came back and he had a pair of high top Pradas. And I was like, yo, those are crazy. And then I went and seen them at Saks. So this is like year 2000, 1999, 2000. And I bought the high top ones. I remember I had the low top burgundy joints.
And those were like 6, 7 bills.
They were the high top ones
with the red stripe on the back.
Yeah. I probably had like 8 pairs.
Oh my God.
I can remember I had the suede orange ones, blue suede. I had the burgundy joints. I had the high top black joints. Yeah, I had several pairs.
Putting that credit card to work.
Yeah.
So how did you transition from working FedEx and stock in the back room to like breaking into fashion world?
Well, I was working at the FedEx and I quit because they were trying to bring in a union, and they were trying to dupe everyone that the union was bad. And I remember we had this meeting, and I said, "You guys are saying the union's bad, but my dad's in a union, and that's how I was able to be on his health insurance, and this and a third." And I said, "I know about unions," so I like kind of kicked some knowledge that I had, and then all of a sudden I started getting written up and stuff at the job. So I just quit. I didn't have to deal with that mess. And then I got a job at J.Crew doing sales.
Okay.
And then I remember this working there, and then I had like long ass hair, braids or fro. And then I got written up for having my hair not being acceptable. Because they're like, I remember they were like, it didn't look like
on brand or whatever.
On brand.
Right.
Look at the catalog.
Yeah.
No one's hair's like that. I said, well, there's no one black in the catalog.
Right.
And then so I remember there was this bookstore called Revolutionary Books right down the street from the J.Crew I worked at on 14th.
14th and what? I want to know.
Well, the J.Crew was near 14th Union Square.
Uh-huh.
The bookstore was like maybe 17th and something.
Oh,
it was called Revolutionary Books. So I went there and I bought the employee rights book, New York State employee rights, and then I called up the hotline. I was like, "Oh, according to this, you can't discriminate against someone for immutable characteristics." And so I threw them in a sleeper hole real quick. And then the next day, they're like, "Oh, we're sorry. There've been some mistakes. Your hair is fine." And then the next they tried to sting me. Then the CEO came in and complained about my hair. And then they said, "Oh, okay, you can wear your hair a fro, but you can't have braids because that's hair art." So they kept tweaking and pressing me. And, I just quit because I was just like, fuck you guys.
Right.
And, but that was fun. That was a wild job. I never forget that job was like, I remember I almost lost that job when Ether dropped because we were at work when Ether dropped, and we all went into the stock room. And we just, I remember I was like, Flex just dropped the whole fucking song.
And he played it
kept bringing
30
it back.
times,
And I'm
I
like,
know.
people was coming like, yo, Tremaine, we need you on the sales floor. That's my favorite moment from that job when Ether dropped.
Yep.
I remember that. But so then J.Crew, and then I started I got a stock job at Bertolf Goodman, between Bertolf and Goodman Sachs for Helena Rubinstein Cosmetic Company. Then I had a stock job lost that job. Then I was back working at the liquor store in my hood. I remember this liquor store too was like
a real liquor store.
Yeah, like
not the J.Crew liquor store. Which
no,
you know that one, right?
This
in
is
Tribeca.
like yeah, I know that one. Nah, this is like Farmers Boulevard.
Okay, bulletproof glass, like
Supreme was extorting the liquor store. Like Supreme would be up in the store, like the biggest liquor store in Queens. All kinds of characters coming through, every night we wonder, are we gonna get robbed tonight? Yeah, wild. It was fun. And then I was working there, and then I got a job at Kate Spade to do stock, left that. Then I was working at Kate Spade. And I remember I used to, on my lunch breaks, and then I always go hang out at Union after I get out of work. And I just kick it at Union.
Kate Spade was in Soho, right?
Yeah.
And then you go to Union in Soho, right around the corner.
Yeah. I mean, I had been going to Union before that, but now I was in Soho all the time.
Yeah.
So I was hanging out, and I became a Union rat, and I was in Union all the time. And I remember there was a point where I was supposed to meet with James Jebbia because they were considering. Because they didn't want to hire Marianne didn't want to hire me. I really wanted a job at Union. She didn't want to hire me.
Why not?
I don't know why. I think maybe because he's like, I felt like I knew everybody there, or I don't know.
Right.
She just didn't rock with me, maybe. I don't know. Don't matter. And then
and I think just to give some insight, what a lot of people don't know is James Jebbia of Supreme fame was 50-50 partners in Union with Marianne.
Yep.
I think was his ex.
Yep.
Yes. Right. So people might wonder why.
Yeah. So, and he owned the Stussy store.
Stussy, New York.
So I was supposed to meet with James to interview to work at the Stussy, New York store. And then, obviously, he's a busy man, and he kept blowing the interview. So it never happened. And then I got a job at Marc Jacobs. And I took that job. I started off the stock there. And then, my ex, actually, Hadara, helped me get that job at Marc Jacobs. Because someone else had tried to get me a job there, and it didn't happen. And then she put me forward, and then I had 3 interviews. Remember, I had an interview with Debbie, who was the store manager, Susie, who was the head of HR, and then I had an interview with Robert Duffy, who was the president of the company, and Marc Jacobs.
For the stockroom position?
Yeah. He interviewed everyone for any position.
That's amazing.
Yeah. That's why that was the most lit, at that time, fashion company in the world, because every position was considered important. They hired personalities and people. They weren't like, okay, we're going to put a bunch of black guys in the stock room, black dude or Spanish dude on the security. You had all races and genders working at all positions. Yeah. And it was totally mobile. So I went from being a stock guy to ending up like assistant manager of the collection store in London, because they moved me. I started at Marc Jacobs in 2006. 2010, they moved me to London to work at the collection store.
Between 2006 and 2010, you were just moving up out of the stock room into the front of the store, I assume, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was like in a stock room for not even a year, and then I became sales associate at the women's Marc by Marc store. Then moved to a couple of stores around, because we have mad stores in the West Village.
Yeah.
And then
you pretty much owned Bleecker Street.
Mark and Robert did, yeah.
Yeah.
There were several stores. There was the tchotchke store, then eventually the cosmetic store, the collection store, the men's store, Marc by Marc store, the bookstore. Yeah, it was.
And you could just float around to all of that?
I worked at the women's Marc by Marc, and then worked at the men's Marc by Marc.
Okay.
Those are the 2 ones I worked at my tenure in the West Village. And
how was it working under Mark and Robert?
Incredible. You know, last 9 to 5 I ever had. It was
Last 9 to 5 job you ever had?
yeah, I haven't had a 9 to 5 since 2015. I worked with Marc Jacobs for like 9 years.
Nice.
It was great. I learned a lot about life. You know, Robert never lied to me. When he interviewed me, he said, I remember he's like, you're hired, we're going to work you hard, but you joined the company at a very opportune time. And if you work hard, you'll be rewarded. And that was the case through and through. As long as he was in, like him and Marc were in power and charge.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was great, man. And Marc Jacobs is a company I always loved. I used to go into the collection store, check out the cashmere hoodies, check out, you know, men's and women's clothing. So I was super happy to work there.
Yeah.
Because I loved the culture of it. You
Right.
know, what Marc and Robert represented and Marc Jacobs represented, and was a New York brand. Yeah. It's probably, I would not have probably continued to work in fashion if it wasn't for Marc and Robert on a retail level. You know?
Yeah. And from where you came from, like being at a company like J.Crew or some of the other places where you had to deal with some BS.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see how just because of the way a company's run, like from the top, how it like trickles all the way down throughout, you know?
Yeah, they treat everyone the same. Everyone was, a couple stories, they had a clothing allowance. You get 2 pairs of shoes and 12 garments a season, no matter your position.
Oh, wow.
You had the same clothing allowance that Marc Jacobs and Robert had. If you're security, you got 12 pieces of clothing.
Wow.
And 2 pairs of shoes. If you're stock, you got 12 pieces of clothing, 2 pairs of shoes. Sales associate. Everyone was equal in that way. And that's kind of the micro macro for that company.
Yeah.
I remember one time we had a going away party for Robert's assistant, Deborah, at Indochine. And Robert's like, oh, Tremaine, come sit here with me and Marc. And I'm talking to them. And then someone's like, oh, Tremaine, you're at the VIP table. And then Marc was like, we don't have VIP tables at Marc Jacobs parties. So that's kind of, that was the vibe. It was like, it was socio-democratic.
Word.
Type of vibe, you know?
Yeah, that's ill. You can't make your way to Marc Jacobs through stock rooms, loading docks, liquor stores, and sales floors unless you are grounded with a specific strength in character. I found it really interesting that most of these experiences were spoken about in a very similar tone, giving all of those jobs equal billing as rungs on a life ladder. Listen back. Tremaine talks about loading a FedEx truck the same way he talks about rubbing shoulders with Marc Jacobs. And therein lies an invaluable piece of wisdom. Many times, the job you're in is actually an audition for the job you deserve to get someday. At times, your real job, and when I say job, I mean the task at hand, your real job is to accumulate opportunities, make friendships, and build connections. No matter what that job description really is, essentially, it's practice. And in many industries, people talk, word gets around, and one day you'll need someone to vouch for you. And not just you as a person, but you as the worker. So, did he take pride in his work? Were you responsible? Did she treat everyone fairly? So, understand the relevance of the prospects that are right in front of you and use them to your advantages as experiences. They hold way more value than you might actually think. When you came out of towards the tail end of Marc, were you financially in a very good place? Probably was it, I would assume, the best place of your life up until then? Because before that, it sounded like it was like odd job, stock job, going from one to the other. But now you had this was your career.
Yeah. I never saw, and this is I think my gift. I never put all my eggs, I never was like, oh, I'm gonna be working at Marc Jacobs for 30 years. I just knew that wasn't a reality. So by the time because it was Marc Jacobs, the company had mass layoffs, like 200 people. By the time I got laid off in London, I was doing creative consulting, consulting for Stussy. I was consulting for Serge Becker, as social director for his La Bodega Negra. I was consulting for Stussy. I was doing creative consulting for Frank Ocean, working on, Blonde and Boys Don't Cry. And me and Acyde were DJ stuff. We were DJing, and we were getting DJ. We were mainly DJing and doing nights in London. It hadn't hit yet, like, where we're DJing around the world. We'd done a couple gigs. Like, we did one gig was for Stussy in LA, and that was before No Vacancy Inn existed as a name. So
there were you didn't have all your eggs in one thing.
There were side things, but financially well off? No, I mean...
London's expensive.
Yeah, I mean, I had a severance. I got a severance package.
From Marc, right?
From Marc,
yeah.
Which was, I think it was like £38,000. That's
$70K-ish?
Yeah, depending on what the rate was. That's the most money I ever got at once in my life. That's the most money I ever had in my bank account in life. And I spent all of it trying to making No Vacancy Inn happen.
Yeah.
And making, I remember people were saying you should try to buy a house or do this, and I was like, nah, I'm gonna make all this stuff that I've been doing on the side my primary thing, and main thing make this what me and Acyde do together, make this work. So that's what. So I went for broke.
Yeah.
'Cause I remember I ran through all that money. And then I had to go and I had about some money in my 401k. Not a lot, like $30K, and I took that out. So I ran out of the severance and then took
the 401k.
Yeah, so I ran out of money.
Yeah.
And then took out all the money on my 401k, which was 30 American. I was still living in London. And then,
was there ever a state of panic?
No.
Really?
Yeah. It's just money.
I talk to a lot of young people, and they're always panicked about failure.
Failing's good. That's how you get good at things. If you look at a baseball player, if you can hit 3 out of 10 baseballs, 4 out of 10, you're going to go to Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
That means you're missing 6. You're striking out 6 times out of 10.
Right.
So that means you're learning from those 6 strikeouts something that helps you hit those 3 times because you're paying attention and you're learning if you're a good athlete. So failing is good if you're learning from it. And if you get caught up in failing, it will destroy you. Again, and this is jewels I got from my pops. When Joe Torre first brought up Derek Jeter from the farm system, they're like, how are you going to start this guy at shortstop? You know what I mean? This is 96, and they won a championship that year.
Yeah.
But they're like, how are you going to start this guy at shortstop? Shortstop's the hardest position. He doesn't have enough experience in the major league. And he said, what are you going to do when he makes a mistake, an error? Joe Torre said, what I'm going to tell Derek when he makes an error is the next ball is coming.
Right.
So if you're thinking about that ball you fumbled, you're going to fumble. You're going to be thinking about the next one's coming. That's life. It's like when my mom died. I love and miss my mom, but someone else is going to die too. And I got to get ready for that emotionally.
Right.
Because we're all finite. And I can apply that to so many things. You can't get caught up in the negative things that happen. You have to learn from them and be grateful from what you can learn from them.
Yeah.
And I think that's a positive way to live life. So I rarely get especially from things that happen to me, I don't really get panicked or panicked about stuff because it's like, I focus on the stuff I can control, which isn't much. I can kind of control what I think and feel. Yeah. Other than that, you don't have much control in life. And once you realize that,
you're free.
You're free. You have a better life.
You can stop the episode right here because I think you already have everything you need to know in life. Tremaine's anecdotes about failure is so true. Do not let your failures crumble your self-worth. I love the baseball analogy here because it's entirely true. Ted Williams is the last Major League Baseball player to hit above 400 in 1941. He got a hit 4 out of every 10 times he came up and missed 6 out of every 10 times. And he's considered one of the greatest hitters of all time. Point being, every chance you take is not going to be a hit. But if you believe in yourself enough to hang in there, greatness could be right around the corner. In all the people that I've spoken to on a deep level over the years, there is one major common thread. The people that have looked mortality in the face, either with their own lives or with someone extremely close to them, they seem to see life differently. Having full understanding of the end almost seems like the secret to being able to enjoy the present. Now, I don't wish tragedy upon any of you, but when it happens, let those emotions wash over you and understand the place that you're sitting in at that moment. And understand that true freedom comes from realizing that control is just a figment of our imagination. It's interesting, though, if you could take us back to that moment where you burnt through your 401k, which is like your last savings.
Yeah.
And you don't have a job. You don't have a full-time job. So now you're brewing this thing with Acyde.
Yeah.
What was the motivating thing? Like, you just like driven that you knew that this was going to work?
Didn't know that was going to work. I just knew I was doing the right thing.
Okay.
I never forget the last conversation I had with my mom, like a month or two before she died. She said to me, Tremaine, do you think that if you went back to college, you could get a better position at Marc Jacobs? And I kind of laughed. And I was like, Mom, I think I figured some other things out. You know, I'm working with this guy, Frank Ocean.
This guy.
You know, my friend Acyde and I were kind of working with this guy, A$AP Rocky. You know, Acyde's on Rocky's, on Allah, that album, on the last song, Back Home. And we just used to be, more than anything, we're just friendship. We were just be in the studio at Rocky all the time. Like during the London years, just like we're all together all the time. But anyway, I was like, this guy, Rocky, I'm doing this stuff for Serge Becker. I'm about to do my contract with Stussy for consulting part-time.
Yeah. But all of this to moms and dads is like...
Yeah.
What?
And then, so I just told her all this stuff, and then she goes... And this is before any of this stuff broke through.
Right.
No Vacancy didn't even exist.
Yeah, you couldn't Google any of this shit now.
And she just said, I'm just happy you're doing what you always love to do. Because that's what my mom knows. I love music. I love art.
Yeah.
I love art. Forget disseminating between it. I love art. So she's just like, you're working around stuff you like to do. I'm happy for that. So I just always had the internal thing that whether stuff's working or not, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. You know, a big inspiration for me was also, besides, you know, was Acyde. Because I saw him, I met him in like 2000, end of 2010, beginning of 2011, and he had recently left Nike, a really cushy job.
Real dream job.
Yeah. And he left it to, because he wasn't happy at the time there, and he went to pursue making music, his number one love. He put it all on the line to do what he loved, and that was a big, you know, that was really inspiring to me. And meeting him and like knowing the job he had and seeing him, like, yeah, I have to do this, you know. And I saw him go through it over years, and him and Morgan made the album. It's a great album. The album sold nothing. They made no money off it, zero. But the success was in doing it. Yeah. And him not having to be on his deathbed one day and be like, damn, what if I would have made that album? And that's another thing I try to tell kids and people. You can do something that seems like it fails, but in the long run, it's going to make you money, or forget money, give you happiness. Yeah. So, because, you know, the stuff that Acyde's doing now that he wouldn't be doing if he didn't make that album, that he had to go broke. Yeah. And lose the cushy job. And find out, oh, you only mess with me because I was working at Nike and I can get you some Yeezys or something like that. Right. You don't really rock with me. All the stuff he found out and how hard it was to make an album. Yeah. And to sing on an album for the first time and whatever, all the stuff to go through it. And Yeah. So that was a big inspiration. Also, too, like at that time, you know, Acyde, he never really talks about it because he's super stoic. You know, it was like he has sickle cell. So right when the album was about to come out, he had a crisis. And like, I remember one night he hit me up like, Tremaine, can you bring me a sandwich? I remember I got out of work, went to this place, got him a chicken sandwich, and took it to the hospital. He's like, yeah, man. And he said it so deadpan. He's like, the doctor said it was 50-50 last night for me. Like 50-50 what? He's like, yeah, I could have died, you know? And he was banged up in the hospital for a while. And I'll never forget, he had like the breathing mask thing on. And he's like, tell Anthony I'm ready to get it when I get out of here. Who was his A&R at Marathon Records. And for me, I was just like...
Right. He's in his maybe deathbed.
Yeah, like he's banged. He's banged. Like, if he was in America, a wrap. Because he wouldn't have the money for the healthcare. You know, but the NHS, thank God, he's good. You know, NHS. And then, you know, came out, did some shows, album did what it did. And then after him being sick, my mom died, got laid off from Marc Jacobs. So all this stuff happened.
Yeah.
And I just like, you know, it was just like, carry your mom's casket, everything else is light. Nothing's heavy to me. You know what I mean? Yeah. Nothing's heavy. So, yeah, I think that's like, in a weird way, and I'm not spiritual or religious, you know, at all. I think, you know, everything in the world comes from energy. And then when you die, energy goes out. We don't have the answers. But I do think when my mom passed, that was like, I don't know, that was like my last bit of training. Being so far away in London and stuff like that. Like, that really like, yeah, it kind of made me free. It was like my final test about, like I definitely believe I became a man when my mom passed away because it was like, all the fear went away. And it could go to, when something like that happens, you can go either way. You can go negative or you can go...
Right.
Or
like
you can go too positive too. Or you can just go like, you know what? This is a finite life. I need to just do what I want to do.
Yeah.
And be around people I love much as I can and be around the things I love much as I can. And that's what I made my life about. Hanging around people I love much as I can. I still didn't always do it. And doing the things I love. And then it's weird, man. It's weird. Like, my mom died. And I remember that summer, August, Acyde called me and he said, yo, bro, he's like, your mom died, man. You're getting laid off. We're doing these gigs. It's all right. But he said, like, we need a name. You ever wanted to open a store or something or whatever? And I said, nah, we gotta open a store. We've been living out of hotels, traveling, because DJ stuff had picked up a bit. Yeah. And I said, yo, let's call it No Vacancy Inn. It's the hotel of our minds. It's this ephemeral hotel and that's why it's no vacancy, like, because you're not in it. Like,
there's no room for you.
Yeah, like, we're just always checked out.
Right.
We're always on the road, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, like, all our friends are, like, inhabitants of this hotel. And it's like, you know, I always say Hotel Chelsea on Wheels, the factory.
Word.
And yeah, so it became a name for me. And No Vacancy Inn is me and Acyde's brains. Yeah. Together when we come together and do things. And then, yeah, we named it. Me, Acyde, and Sam Ross designed the logo. Remember the first party we did under No Vacancy Inn was with Guillaume Berg at the Scotch of St. James. And then we just rolled it. It was wild.
Carry your mom's casket. Everything else is light. It is a hard line to repeat, but it's one of the most poignant thoughts I've ever heard in my life. And I only say it because it's helpful to remember things in perspective. In the beginning of the conversation, Tremaine touched on the idea that it's how we handle ourselves when things don't go our way that will ultimately define us. And here he is, testing that theory in real time. It's another moment where the road ahead of Tremaine offered up a detour. But if you haven't noticed, Denim Tears has an aversion to giving into distractions. Here, again, he finds a path into the darkness. No home, no job, no mom. And how do you then stay focused and do what you believe in? You have to be able to live your life the way you want to live it, because then at least you'll be able to look at yourself in the mirror when it's all said and done.
And this is why kids want a trajectory. There is no trajectory. I remember the first pop-up we did was with Tom Sachs. He did this thing called the Bodega. Mm-hmm. And he turned the front of his studio on Center Street into a bodega that also played music.
Yeah.
And I ran into Tom in the street. And I said, Tom, what's up? It's Tremaine. He's like, oh, Tremaine, so nice to finally meet you in person. Because he had only known me on email from stuff with me, him, and Frank. Because my OG Serge connected me to Tom. Mm-hmm. I connected Tom to Frank on Frank's behest. Because me and Frank had been talking about Tom and his art, and Frank was looking for people to work. So I knew Tom from emails. So I ran into him in the street, stopped him, like, hey, it's Tremaine, good to meet you. And he's like, yo, so great to meet you. And then he emailed me like, yo, so good to run into you. Come by the studio. So I came by, maybe the next time I was in New York and he wasn't there. I just said, hey, let Tom know I came by. Mm-hmm. And then Tom's like, yo, he emailed me like, Tremaine, so sorry I missed you. Would you like to, I want you to do artist in residency at the Bodega. He's like, Virgil and Heron are doing it. 8 Ball Collective is doing it. Would love for you to do it. I said, yeah, I'll do it if I can do it with Acyde, No Vacancy Inn. Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, of course. And then that was the first No Vacancy Inn pop-up. That's the first time we sold my mom's red velvet cake. First time we ever sold any No Vacancy items. I remember we had the USBs with the tchotchke keychains from Chinatown. And we had mixes. We had all our friends do mixes. Yeah. But that's how it happened. Right. And then it just rolled from there. And then the DJ gigs started picking up and we started doing more stuff. And it's actually going to be 5 years, 2020, since we started No Vacancy Inn. But
did you and Acyde really formalize this thing? Like, is there a No Vacancy Inn LLC? Like,
yeah.
Oh, word?
Yeah, it's all tied up.
Did you write a business plan?
No. No. Definitely didn't write. The business plan's still being written.
Okay.
But yeah, we just knew. It was a quick conversation. He's like, we got to brand this thing we do. Else we'll never get the opportunities we need to get if it's just loosey-goosey, Acyde and Tremaine. And then
I think that's facts. Yeah.
And then honestly was like,
and even though it is a thing like an LLC, it is still quite loosey-goosey. Like, you can sell clothes, do parties, it operates in all these different things.
No, 100%. I mean, who knows what No Vacancy will become in the future? I mean, it's not written in stone. It's whatever we're feeling, Yeah. Like, I remember we used to DJ parties and we get damn near kicked out the club for playing rap. This is, 7 years ago. Mm-hmm. When wasn't nobody playing, you couldn't play rap all night in a club. Yeah. Now it's like, you're lucky if you hear us play 1 or 2 rap songs. We're playing, Acyde's on a different vibe, because Acyde's the DJ. I toast the mic. Yeah. I MC. I toast the crowd, as it's called. Acyde DJs. And so even in that aspect, things have changed on our DJ sets. But yeah, it's a New Balance collab, but then maybe we're gonna collab with, a charity to do something. It's just there's no rhyme or the rhyme or reason is just what we like to do and what we're really about. Right. That's it.
Right.
Staying true to ourselves.
I just did a talk last night, and one of the questions that was asked of me was, how do you stay malleable, which is what we just talked about, loosey-goosey, versus scalable? Yeah. So they're almost like polar opposites, right? There's a freedom in sort of being able to do anything, but then how do you become Starbucks? Yeah. And maybe you have no desire to be a McDonald's or a Starbucks where you're available or a piece of you is available in 36 different locations around the world,
I think it's about what's your number.
That'll make you happy, meaning, right?
Yeah, just what's your number? What's your Some people 100 million isn't enough.
Absolutely.
Some people $1 billion isn't enough.
Some people 1,000's enough. Yeah.
So I think part of it's what's your number that determines how you want to scale. What are you doing? Because it's like, an example, like I remember I was in Paris with some friends, and we went to my friend Pierre's restaurant, Deviant, and he's Jean Tutu's son from APC, and we were Jean, and we were with Ye too, and Ye was like, wow, you guys should open more of these. This is incredible. And then Jean's like, no, you can't, because if you open more, you lose the quality. Because they only make so much of the ingredients that they buy.
Yeah.
There's only so much of it. So once you start scaling it bigger, you're going to lose the thing that made it.
Right.
That's the food trade.
Yep.
That's that type of restaurant.
That's why there's no In-N-Out in New York.
Exactly. Or like, I won't even say the name, but there's a Japanese restaurant chain that all of them aren't the same. The one the original one in LA is incredible, but I've been to the one in Aspen. It's horrible. Why? Because it doesn't,
Yeah.
You can't, so there's that. So it's about what's your number, and then what type of product are you selling? Is it scale? Can you scale it without losing quality?
Right.
And are you okay with losing the quality if you scale it? And also, are you okay with more employees, more problems?
Right.
More money,
Drama.
more problems.
Yeah.
More taxes.
Right.
More everything. Are you okay with that? I think for the world we're in, it's about having structure mixed with liability for what works for me. So I'm being Acyde, we're bringing in structure so we could still do freestyle.
Yeah.
But then things are consistent, and we're consistently getting things to the consumer.
I was just about to ask you on that sliding scale of malleability and scalability. Are you guys trying to be slightly more or like structured, or are you enjoying the randomness?
Yeah, we want to be more structured, but still have have it where if you just let's put out a T-shirt next week. You can do that.
Yeah.
But then also you do want to have that consistency of drops or consistency of whatever it is we're doing, But
I think maybe one aspect of genius is being able to hit that perfectly down the middle. Like you look at Virgil, right?
Yeah.
Like the scalability is obviously there.
Yep.
Locations all over the world, but the randomness of what he's able to produce, whether it's a museum show or a random T-shirt with a Japanese brand, or it still feels random, but it's available to everyone.
Yeah.
That's like amazing.
Virgil is a genius, and
absolutely.
And you hit on the head. It's like scalable, big, pop out, but still something feels DIY in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His Nikes are probably like an actual manifestation of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something still feels do it yourself.
Right.
And then I feel like that's the part that relates most to the people.
So let's say you've built this business and now the phone is ringing. There will come a time when you start asking yourself, hey, what does this look like 5 years from now? How about 10 years from now? This is when the malleability versus scalability conversation starts to happen. Tremaine has some valuable insights here. He wants No Vacancy Inn to exist at a level that him and his partner Acyde can enjoy, with freedoms. Yet he knows deep down that some ability to organize and scale is probably needed in the near future. The ability to maintain freedom is often seen as the greatest asset for young creatives. Yet, the ability to scale is often seen as the greatest asset for a business person. So how does one juggle these two worlds? How do you manage profitability in a business without diminishing your art? Study those who have come before and monitor where you want to be on that sliding scale. Tremaine asked you, what's your number? Determine that first, and it will help lead to understand how to juggle it for yourself. After all, everyone's scale is different. Everyone's number is different. And to add to that difficulty, shit changes every single day. So while it is to each his own, you do have to eventually come to some kind of agreement with yourself on where you want to take your future. So this is a good segue to New Balance.
Yeah.
Because this is, if I'm not mistaken, is it one of the first big footwear projects that you've worked on?
Yeah. That I've worked on that. It's our shoe.
Yes. You've
me,
consulted.
Me, Acyde, and Brock. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So talk about how the thinking went behind that. Did you talk to them? Did they reach out to you?
They reached out to us, and then we said yes. Went out to Boston and designed the 3 shoes that are coming out.
Yeah. One is out already, right?
The 990s, yeah.
And then the second one
the 650s.
is that the gum sole one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's a third.
There's a third coming out too.
Okay.
They're both going to come out end of this year.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
does this have anything to do with being an art dad? I mean, I feel like when Art Dad came out, New Balance was like, yo, this is our opportunity.
Yo, you know what? It's funny. That's wild, man. That we've spent out a lot of ideas and put them out, and it's like sometimes maybe we step off stuff too fast. I definitely think it's like, yeah, it definitely was like a perfect marriage in that sense of, I get sent everything. I kind of end up in my New Balances,
right?
Cowboy boots, or
what you got on now?
Birkenstocks. Yeah, but then I wear my cactus joints. If I do
cactus plant, yeah.
No matter what, yeah. But yeah, I think. But also, it's not even just the age thing. It's just like to us, they're dope. You know what I mean? We just love
iconic.
Just love New Balance. Like I never forget. Like I remember on the beginning of Ghostface's third album, Bulletproof Wads, it starts off Raekwon's like, "What I tell you about wearing the wrong New Balances?" You know what I mean? That's like one of my favorite. That's like my favorite intro ever on the album. Yeah, that's how he starts the album. So it starts off, "What I tell you about wearing the wrong New Balances." So,
was it dope working with them? Are they good working partners?
Yeah, good people.
Yeah,
good people. Pretty painless. Pretty painless. Yeah.
Can I throw a conspiracy theory at you?
Sure.
Okay. So you got Ye at 3 Stripes.
Yeah.
V at Swoosh.
Yeah.
And then now when it's time for you to do a shoe,
you
got to hit the other one.
Yeah.
Like so we're all covered.
Oh, we're all covered. You know what? You know what the thing is?
Did that discussion happen behind closed doors?
You know, it's funny you say that. If we all had ultimate solidarity, that discussion should have been had. But no, it's pretty random.
It feels good.
I could see how someone could see it like that, but no, there was no discussion. But we all should be communicating. No, for real, like
you all do communicate, just not strategically like that, right?
Nah.
Okay.
Nah.
Conspiracy theory busted. Fine. I was trying to start some shit.
Yeah. I would say, nah. Me, V, and Acyde. Like we're brothers, man. Like it's not even about time, how long you know someone, but I've known V a while, and that's my man. And I known Acyde a while, that's my man. And we definitely talk. We build about the state of the game and what's going on, and give each other advice. And we're not like we're not yes men to each other. Like
right.
Especially Acyde. Acyde will tell you straight up if you think something you're doing is whack.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we definitely have that solidarity, and we communicate about things that are going on. And even sometimes the stuff's going on, I'll get on the gram or Twitter and let off a shot in defense of somebody.
Yeah.
And hold cats down.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing this world that we live in now, where if you think about like the Big Bang.
Yeah.
And if maybe Kanye was the Big Bang.
Great way to put it.
And then all this cosmic dust spit out of it, right? That's how, I interviewed Samuel Ross for the show.
Kanye and Pharrell.
Okay.
I would say Kanye.
They were the two things that collided, maybe.
And Puff.
Okay.
Because Puff was the first one, like, we going to fashion weeks and stuff like that.
That's true. Fashion shows
and Sean John and all that. So I was, Puff's a part, he's like in the cosmic dust too. 100% Pharrell and Ye.
Yeah.
I would say Pharrell, Ye, and Marc Jacobs. Actually, you got to add Marc Jacobs because Mark Steven Sprouse
Murakami. Yeah.
Richard Prince, Kusama, all those collabs, the Vans collabs, all the Marc Jacobs collabs that never came out.
Yeah.
There was supposed to be a Lil Wayne collab while he was in jail. Marc Jacobs collab. Facts. I've seen the product. New Balance collabs. This is in early 2000s.
That didn't come out.
Queen Bee had the Free Little Kim t-shirts. Marc Jacobs doing that. Free Little Kim t-shirts.
Wow, shit.
You know, him going to visit Little Kim in jail. Him and Ye doing the Louis sneakers before the Nikes came out.
Mm-hmm.
Him doing the jewelry with Pharrell. Marc opened his arms to young minority creatives like no other fashion designer ever had done ever before him. You know, so really, in my opinion, it's Marc, Ye, and Pharrell that really...
And Puff.
And Puff's in there too.
Right.
Yeah, that's my opinion on it. Yeah.
And how do you feel now about all the shit that has spun off of that?
It's incredible. It's incredible, you know. And you have stuff that happens that's like, oh, thought that was a planet, but it's not a planet.
Pluto.
There's a lot of Plutos out here.
Right. There's
a lot of Plutos like thought it was a planet. Nah, you can't terraform that.
Word.
I think it's incredible, man. It's like, and I'm really grateful. I'm grateful to see it, man. I'm grateful that I've been able to see it as a fan and a player.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a bench player. I've been a sixth man. I've been a starter.
Mm-hmm.
At times, hitting game-winning shots. I'm happy that I've been able to see it from all vantage points, man.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. And I feel like it's wild, man. It's really wild. It's really wild. Like, even if you think about it, go back to the J.Crew story of my hair.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing people rather have in their store now as someone that looks like me or you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Ad campaign, yeah.
Yeah. An Asian person.
Right.
A black person, a Hispanic person. Whatever, trans, whatever. Like, it's all more accepting than it was.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a lot of work to be done. But
that's what I want to ask you. Are we at the point where society is really blind, or are we patronizing right now? Are we? And I don't mean we. I mean, are they doing it because it's the hot thing to do, or are we really blissfully colorblind and class is blind?
You're asking great questions, making great statements. So, I give you an example.
Yeah.
It's and. Not my neighbor, Shira, really smart woman. She told me once there was stuff going on with an artist I was working with, and she said, "You know what? I don't agree with everything he's saying, but it's never and or. It's and.
Mm-hmm.
People should be able to talk about both sides."
Mm-hmm.
So I'll say this: Obama became president, right? And everyone thought that America has changed.
We fixed it.
And
that's
then
what everyone
he did
thought.
8 years, and Trump got in. How much did America change?
Right.
So, you know, V's the head of Louis Men's, but that doesn't mean everything's changed. You know, it's a great opportunity for V and his family and his friends, and for the culture.
Yep.
But in the day, it's a really well-paid, prestigious job.
Mm-hmm.
There's more stuff to be done, and it's not all on V to cut through and change things.
Right.
You know, and
V actually came under fire recently.
Yeah.
Right? Because he was supposed to be, to the culture, the Messiah.
Yeah.
And the Savior. And then when people saw things that were like, wait, what? I thought you were us. I thought you were one of us. What is this? I love what you said. And if you don't mind, I would do you mind reading what you said? It's your words.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wait, I took a screenshot. Because I'd love, when I read this, I was thinking like, you must have been hot.
Yeah.
Because you know the man himself, but the press was saying all this other shit. So I want you to, like, from your mouth.
Well, the screenshot is of Virgil sending an email to Sam Ross.
Offering him a job for the first time ever.
Yeah.
Which
And
Sam,
this is not a job for Off-White. This is like work for me and work for Kanye.
Like
Work
Donda.
for Donda.
right. And wait, did you get the screenshot from Sam?
Sam had posted it.
Okay, so you just took the image.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And then, what did I say here?
It's a photo, so.
Yeah. You know why Sam Ross, who worked for Ye, worked for V, worked for Acyde and I, wasn't at the Off-White Christmas party? Same reason I wasn't. He was too busy walking through the fashion creative world door that Kanye and Virgil drop kicked off the hinges in the name of the Black Pool of Genius. That has existed since tribal times in Africa till now in the Western white male patriarchal dominated world. What y'all want Virgil to do? Thanos snap all the white people out of the fashion industry? Or do you want him to operate with humanity and hire and create with the best people from all cultures and communities to push the creative world forward? So before pointing a finger and think about what you have done for the empowerment of any minority community that is lacking representation in your life ever. Anyone can preach from the vapid ivory tower that is the internet, but it takes a real one to hit the streets and help others without broadcasting it for validation. Y'all should try it.
Damn. That little caption said volumes, yo.
Yeah, you know, because it's like, my whole thing is like, it's like now with the Jay-Z thing, right?
Yes.
Jay helped Meek get out of jail. You know, Jay's done a lot that people don't know and we do know about. My thing is like, what are you doing about the NFL?
Yeah.
Did you not order buffalo wings and watch the Super Bowl? Even while Colin was not in the league, not playing? Because if you did, then you can say something.
Maybe
you can say something. But if you haven't, and it looks like to me, Jay's trying to Trojan horse. Because at the end of the day, we live in a capitalistic, consumerist, white male-dominated society. In my opinion, you beat the system by building a system next to the system.
Or within it.
Within it.
Yeah.
Because if you just go try to just be like, fuck the system is stronger than you. So you got to use guerrilla warfare. You know, that's how they won in Vietnam, the Viet Cong.
Yeah.
They didn't have bigger guns or bigger missiles in America, but they were crafty. And they used guerrilla tactics. Same thing in Cuba. Castro started the war with, whether you agree with the Cuban Revolution or not, Castro started that revolution with 33 people. It was either 13 or 33 people.
Yeah.
So it's just like small revolutions start from the small things.
Right.
And the Trojan horse method. It works.
And I can't believe that even after all that Jay has done and given to us, from reasonable doubt to today, they're so quick to be like, you fucking traitor.
But Jay foretold this in the, I listen to this freestyle at least once a month, corporate takeover freestyle.
Okay.
And part of the freestyle, he goes, the same sword they knight you with, the good knight you with. And that's only half if they like you. Don't believe me? Ask Michael. See Martin, see Jesus. See Malcolm, see Martin, see Jesus, see Judas. See, success is like a suicide. A suicide, the more you succeed, prepare to get crucified. He said, the more you succeed, prepare to get crucified. Nobody's crucifying the guy who has no ambition and lives in his mom's basement at age 38.
Right.
They crucified a 38-year-old guy who's the head of the artistic director of Louis Vuitton, creative director of Off-White, creative whatever director of Evian, and they crucify him because he has an office for Off-White in a homogenous area called Milan. Ain't no black people in Milan. Y'all know how business work? You want Virgil to go fly in everyone from Chicago and New York and then give them housing. So then because I don't know if people even understand that level of like, when I moved from, Marc Jacobs paid for all my stuff to get moved over there, paid for my visa. If you're gonna do that for 30 or 50 people.
It's crazy. That is the Thanos snap. Like, you can't just...
You know what I mean? And it's just like, it's in Milan. That's where the company is. He did the deal with New Guard, and it is mostly Italian people there. That's probably what is there an Off-White store in Japan? I think so. I think there's going to be mostly Japanese people wearing that. And this is coming from me. Like, I'm very well versed in what's going on racially in the world. I'm the first one to point something out. And I can say this objectively. People are just looking for something They're looking for something because someone's doing well. And it's sad, man.
Yeah.
It's sad, and it's like, you know, it's like I have a bigger voice in the world because of my working and friendship with V. You know, Sam. That's why I don't think people got it. Like the reality is, all the black people, women, talented people V knows, and he also helps talented white people too. All the people he feels really, really talented, V ain't trying to hire you. He's trying to plug you and kick you in your back so you can go and do your own thing. That's why Sam ain't all the black people that.
That's why Sam ain't working
there.
Yeah.
Because he used to work. I met Sam in Benji B's studio. Sam's working on designs. We in the studio, me, Benji B, and Skepta, and Acyde, and Virgil. That's how I met Sam. But he don't work for V no more. He don't work on no sales floor no more.
That doesn't mean V deserted him, though.
He's helped them. And Sam's helped himself.
Right.
So,
it's
you
crazy.
know.
I think you said it best when you said the ivory tower of the internet.
Yeah. People love it, man. People love it. And it's like, it's easy to be a critic from the couch.
Yeah.
Easy to be cynical from the couch.
Right.
Hard to just get up every day and try to do something to make the world better every day.
What is your take on social media, the internet, and people using it as both a weapon, a tool, and sometimes like their entire livelihood?
Yeah. Answers in a question. So you can use a hammer to build something, or you can use a hammer to kill someone. Any tool. And that's the internet. Internet's nothing more than a tool, and unfortunately people make it more than that. And then also people don't have a real understanding. Like I feel like in school, kids should learn about social media and stuff before they're allowed access to it.
Word.
Learn that, hey, internet, Instagram is your second self. It's not the real you. I could write the most poignant thing about my mother on Instagram. It's still second self because it's premeditated. It's premeditated because I know people are going to see it.
Exactly.
I don't care how pious you are. It's all second self. And I don't think people understand that. And they think it's real life, and people get anxiety because they're like, oh, look, Tremaine's on the private jet with Ye. They don't see when, you know, I was loading boxes at Marc Jacobs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And someone's like, oh, yo, Kanye just walked in the store. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I got to finish this order.
Yeah.
They don't see that on the gram.
Right.
I got to finish unpacking this stuff.
And they're not taking care of the real self because they're spending way too much energy on the second self.
And yeah, and they're not taking care of the real self. They're spending too much energy on the second self and spending energy and looking at other people's second selves and being like, how can I get to that place where it's all internal?
Yeah.
It's all internal. Figure out what you like to do and do it.
Okay, so imagine now you're talking to a young person who is just neck deep in the second world.
Yeah.
How do they unplug? It's tough.
No, 100%. It's tough. It's, man, there's this young woman who I'm friends with. Her name's Coco, and she's incredible. I'm going to put her on blast. She works at ProCell, and she just got a really amazing new job at probably the biggest streetwear company you could work for in the world. But anyway, I've known Coco for years now, and like a year or two, Coco's like 22, 23.
Okay.
And we just became friends, and we just always, when I'm in New York, we meet up and talk, and she deleted her Instagram. And she said, you know what, Tremaine? I remember I had dinner with her, met up with her last night too in New York, me, her, and Brick. She said it was hard at points where I feel lonely because I'm only texting my 5 or 7 friends on my thing, and I don't have that Instagram thing, but I have more peace of mind. I really urge just young people to take a vow of silence at times. You don't have to do what Coco did and get off it completely.
Was Coco getting like the anxiety thing happening with it?
Yeah.
Is that why she went so extreme?
I think she told me, she said she felt like she was caring about things she shouldn't be caring about,
right,
and comparing herself, and then people always knowing where you are, all this stuff. And the reason why I'm bringing up this story is not to tell her business, because she's gotten this great job and opportunity that's going to lead to other stuff, and she did it all without being on Instagram. Like, she got this job is sick.
Yeah.
And it's from people knowing she's a good person,
Herself.
a reliable person,
Right.
her recommendations, and her work that she does. You know, she's a graphic designer, you know, and she was working 2 jobs, pro selling another job, you know, to pay the bills or whatever. And she's made it to the point without Instagram.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying don't use Instagram because it's a tool, but it's a tool. Don't use it if it's taking away your peace of mind. That's what I'd say. If you're losing peace of mind because of Instagram, try and take a minute off.
Right.
Or
Put it down.
Yeah, if you're losing peace of mind.
Word.
Like me, when I hit my number, my retirement party isn't a gold watch. My retirement gift is deleting my Instagram. That's going to be my retirement gift, is deleting my Instagram. Like, guys, it was great, man. Love you guys. Delete.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I would urge them to take breaks from it sometime and use it as a tool and know why you're there. That's like anything. People come to LA, why are you here? People come to New York, why are you here? Oh, because other people are here. You might get fucked up in the game. Why come to LA, come to New York, go to Paris, London, because you have an agenda for what you want to do. Just because life, when you don't know why you're somewhere in life, life is just going to happen to you.
Yeah.
Whereas if you know why you're there, then that's the guide. That's your compass, right? If you know why you're doing a T-shirt brand, you're not just doing it because everyone else is, that's your compass. That's your compass when you drop something and you sell 2 tees.
Yeah.
And you want to quit, but you don't quit because you're like, no, I'm doing this because I really love it and I want to do it, and this is how I want to make a living. So I got to figure out how to sell 5 tees next time instead of 2. Whereas if you don't have that compass of knowing why you're doing it, then you're either going to quit or compromise yourself to win. Either or. You're going to quit or compromise your dignity to win, you know?
Yeah. I think that's a great place to end it, man.
No doubt.
Good looking out. That was dope.
My man.
Thank you. How can you get to that place where you're at peace? It's one of the best gems in this episode, and I like that we end it right here. Live this life for yourself. Go on this journey to satisfy your own ambitions. And one day, you might make it to your retirement so that you too can delete your Instagram. Thank you to Tremaine Emory, aka Denim Tears, for this amazingly inspiring episode. As always, you can find out more about the show and listen to other episodes at hypebeast.com/radio. You can subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. I personally use Anchor FM. Leave a comment on Apple and tell us what you think of the show. It definitely helps out a lot. And also, tell a friend. Share it on social media. I love hearing your favorite parts of each episode. We do occasionally answer listener questions on the show, so if you have a question, shoot it over to me on Twitter. I'm at Jeff Staple. The Business of Hype is created in collaboration with Bright Young Things. You can check out their work at byt.nyc. Our director is Daniel Navetta. Our audio engineer is David Rogers-Berry. Our associate producers are Sydney Pacumpra and Christina Hong. This episode was recorded at Sibling Rivalry Studio and on location at the beautiful, gracious, and extremely friendly Line Hotel in Koreatown, LA, California. I'm Jeff Staple, and you've been listening to The Business of Hype on HYPEBEAST Radio.